Planet Dolan.
From trying to cheat the store to forgetting where they just put their change, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the dumbest things we've seen customers do. I'm Hellbent, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by Bulbasaur1500. Dolan worked at a gaming store and a customer tried to sell off her Pokemon Red game, except the cartridge wasn't Pokemon Red. It was a Game Boy Color cartridge painted red with a post-it note taped on the front with the words Pokemon written on it. Needless to say, she didn't get a refund. Plus, they had to kick her out because her goblin of a kid who looked like 1 or 2 was knocking over the merchandise. Number 9 was submitted by Mote-of-Lobross. Mikhailum worked the video game counter at a toy store in a mall back in 1999. On the counter next to him was a VCR TV combo, which played demo tapes they occasionally got from game manufacturers. One day, a woman brought in a fancy remote control airplane kit to be rung up because the regular counter was busy. Mikhailum rang it up and $200 popped up on the register. The lady had a fit and pointed to the $5 price tag on the obviously not $5 remote control plane. Mikhailum told her,
"Sorry, but we go by what the UPC tells us. My apologies if someone mistagged it."
That didn't deter the woman as she wailed and gnashed her teeth at him for over 20 minutes, saying,
"It's illegal to sell anything for any price other than what's on the sticker."
Mikhailum stuck to his guns and repeated that they only go by the barcode and not the sticker because he wasn't gonna let that bitch walk out with a $200 item for $5. Finally, his boss stepped up with 2 videotapes, popping one into the VCR TV and showing the security footage of her in the action figure aisle picking a tag off one toy. Then he took the tape out and stuck in the other one that showed her scraping the tag off the plane and sticking something in its place. Then he told her, "So I guess that's not you there, swapping out the stickers, thinking this would really work." She threw the plane on the ground and stomped out of the store. In doing so, she broke it, so they had mall security track her down. She ended up having to cough up the $200 for the now broken plane she tried to scam them out of. Number 8 was submitted by phoenixesper. So Dolan's brother worked at an Arby's, and apparently there was this guy who called to ask if they could deliver. Dolan's brother said no, and that would be fine and dandy if he stopped. But no, he called every day asking if they delivered. Dolan's brother always said no. Then he'd call again and ask in a shitty accent of some sort, and he'd tell him again,
"This is an Arby's, we don't deliver."
When his manager picked it up, the guy calling asked in a dumb accent, "Hey, do you guys deliver?" His manager replied no, "And we have a caller ID. We know it's you, so stop!" He didn't call back ever again, but this had gone on for like 2 weeks. Number 7 was submitted by paraMOMal. Honeybits worked tech support for a company that sold tax calculation software to accountants. This was in the late 90s, so it was pretty new technology and many of their clients were older. One of her first calls was from an elderly gentleman who was very nice and patient, and he told her that the forms weren't being filled out as they should be. Honeybits went through the simple fixes, then the advanced fixes, uninstalled, reinstalled, and after about 3 hours on the phone, she just didn't know what to do. She was pretty savvy with computers and software, so Honeybits knew she wasn't missing anything. The old man seemed to know enough to do the basics, so she was confident he wasn't doing anything that could have been overlooked. After reinstalling, Honeybits had the gentleman literally tell her his every move. Turn on the computer, move the mouse to the program icon, click twice on the icon, move the mouse cursor to the start icon, open the form, and click on the first box. He then said nothing happened when he clicked on the form. She asked him if anything was happening on the screen. What he told her next solved everything in a second.
"On the computer screen? I thought the mouse printed everything onto the form itself."
Yep, he had the computer mouse on the paper tax forms, expecting the mouse to fill in the forms by printing on them. Number 6 was submitted by Fieryretribution. Nixium worked for Sears back in the early 90s when computers were just entering the mainstream. He had a customer buy a brand new Packard Bell for almost $2,000, only to return it 2 weeks later. She complained that the clothes hanger was broken. Nixium couldn't figure out what she was talking about, so he took it out of the box and got it set up. He had her show him exactly what was wrong. It turned out she had set the computer sideways on her desk and was using a hole in the CD-ROM drive tray to hang her dry cleaning. The weight of the dry cleaning broke the tray. As an idiot tax, Nixiom went ahead and replaced the CD-ROM drive, then asked if she'd like to buy one that she could set on the side of her desk instead. She actually bought an external CD-ROM drive at a nice hefty $120 just to hang her dry cleaning on. Number 5 was submitted by Lady3761. Lady bought her fiance and one day decided to go to McDonald's for lunch. Now, this was when they had the onion Swiss burger. They were chatting when they heard a lady talking really loudly to the employees. So, Lady bought her fiance stopped and listened. Apparently, she had ordered an onion Swiss burger and wanted no onions on it. She came in mad because there were onions on the burger. If she just wanted a burger with cheese, there's a thing called a cheeseburger. Number 4 was submitted by Explosivo25. Slapped Ham has worked at 2 different fast food restaurants, so he's seen his fair share of weird and stupid customers. By far, the dumbest order he's ever had happened at his first job. An old man came in and ordered a hamburger with cheese. Since the only difference between the hamburger and the cheeseburger was the cheese, Slapped Ham just tapped the cheeseburger button. When he read the old man his order, he got all pissy that cheeseburger was typed instead of hamburger with cheese. Slapped Ham explained to him several times that a cheeseburger was a hamburger with cheese and that he'd get the exact same thing regardless, but he refused to listen. He wanted his hamburger with cheese and he would be damned if he had to be corrected by a then 17-year-old working minimum wage. At some point, Slapped Ham was so fed up with him that he ended up going back into the order, voiding the cheeseburger and punching in a hamburger with cheese, which automatically changed to cheeseburger because apparently the register is more reasonable than an old man. Surprisingly, the old man didn't complain about his receipt showing that he had ordered a cheeseburger. Number 3 was submitted by KenTheNoun. About 2 years ago, Tulip was working a temp job as a bagger at a grocery store. And one day, this extremely fat woman in one of those motorized shopping carts came to the register where he was at. He didn't know how, but she somehow managed to fit a regular shopping cart's worth of food into the motorized cart's tiny basket. She handed him 2 reusable bags. The issue was after Tulip filled those 2 bags and started to put the rest of her food into a plastic bag. After he did that, she screamed, "What the hell are you doing?" He simply said,
Excuse me?
She then shouted, "Why aren't you using my bags?" He pointed out that there was no more room. She then gave him a glare like it was somehow his fault that the reusable bags had limited space. She then shouted, "Go away! I'll do it myself!" So Tulip let her, and guess what? She had to use the plastic bags. I'm so angry! Number 2 was submitted by Quantum Well 2. This one time, an elderly lady was in front of Pandora in a supermarket. She had just bought 3 carts worth of apples and then proceeded to pay with $5 bills. After the clerk gave the change, she put the change in her purse. Right after that, she started having a fit because her change was not in her wallet. The cashier, who didn't see where the change went, tried to calm the woman down, but she seemed on the verge of a complete meltdown. Another person stepped up and explained that it was in her purse, but it was clear this man didn't know how to speak English very well, so he had to resort to miming out the act of opening her purse. The woman screamed at the cashier and the man until Pandora stepped in and said that it was in her purse. The woman thanked her, said sorry to all of them, and left without her apples. What's the dumbest thing I've ever seen a customer do? One night at the bar, I was taking out the garbage. Not my favorite thing to do. Those bags weigh upwards of 60, 70 pounds, and you gotta huck them over into the dumpster. So as I was prepping the bags up, getting ready to huck them in the dumpster, a customer approached me drunkenly and offered to help. I politely rejected the offer because it's a lot more difficult and dangerous than it looks. So he was insisting and insisting, begging for me to let him help, and I figured, well, this is getting agitating. I'll just let him lend me a hand, why not? Now, right off the bat, I warned him these are very heavy, you need to be very careful when you throw them, and they're full of glass and liquid. Be careful. The first one he hucks at the dumpster manages to land in, and I'm thinking, hey, maybe this isn't so bad. But he kinda overshot his second throw, and the garbage bag landed on the rim of the dumpster. I told the guy, hold on, let me go get a broom so I can push that into the dumpster. Don't worry about it, this is very easy, no big deal. He immediately says in a very drunken voice, don't worry about this, man, I got it, it's no problem. I immediately turned around from trying to grab the broom to try to stop him from doing what I knew he was gonna do. But I was too late. He tried to push in the garbage bag using his bare hands, keeping in mind these are full of broken glass. His hands got lacerated with little tiny shards of broken glass stuck in his fingers. I had to spend the next 20 minutes picking little slivers of glass out of his hands, sanitizing them, and wrapping them up like he's a fucking mummy. From then on, I never accepted any help from people wanting to do the garbage. It's just too fucking dangerous. Huge thanks for the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What was the worst experience you ever had as a customer? Let us know on the Reddit page linked below, and you might be featured in a future countdown. That's all for now, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Fourth grade, a pretty unfortunate thing happened to him while he was at school. He was walking down a crowded hallway during recess, and two of his teachers were standing there talking to each other. Just as he walked by them, he had a horrible feeling in his face.